Nithyananda everyone. This is Ma Prasiddha.
And I'm Ma Karuna.
Welcome to the Kundalini Yogini. Today we're going to be talking on a very, I guess you would say, controversial topic, but also one that I think is extremely important to address in today's world, honestly, especially when it comes to the society that most of us are a part of and living in, and most of us have been raised in, including ourselves. And that topic is, you want to share?
Are you teaching your infant how to accept a violation in their life?
Yeah, and this is an interesting question, right? Most of us, right, as parents of any of you guys out there, or future parents, you would think, of course, that is never the intention of a parent. But there's many things which we can be taking part of very unconsciously, which contribute to our child having incompletions and future problems with the ability to have respect or to be able to take ownership of their body. There's so much of an uproar right now about gender, about sexuality, about self-identification in general, right? With kids that are being born, especially this next generation. And a whole part of this conversation that quite often needs to be spoken about is the idea of abuse, a violation of sexual violence, especially because it's running rampant in our society, even within the family, sadly most commonly within the family. So what exactly is going on here? You know, we have to look into, and we're going to kind of shine a light on this from a spiritual context, from a spiritual understanding, which we have gained through our study of consciousness and spirituality of Hinduism, of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, through our Guru Paramahamsa Nithyananda. Okay, so that's just the context, the lens, which we're going to be speaking through for you guys today. So
here's one thing that's really interesting, is that like these seemingly mundane experiences, or these things that seem like they're actually beneficial for our children, can actually create a root pattern or a behavioral pattern that is basically encouraging that violation to occur, or even just creating a place where that violation is accepted, or the space where you're feeling guilty about saying no, or feeling like it's wrong to say no when somebody is pushing beyond your boundaries. And it starts at a very young age, and it's as simple as hug your uncle, or hug your cousin, or hug your brother,
kiss your dad on the cheek.
Exactly. Telling your child to do something even if they don't want to, like making them give them a kiss on the cheek. If that child doesn't actually want to in the moment, it's not as if they don't love that person, but what you're teaching them is that they have to do it regardless.
A physical connection and affection becomes completely tainted, actually, right? I know I definitely had this feeling as a small child. I can remember very clearly, because it followed me throughout my whole life, of feeling very uncomfortable with physical contact for many of these reasons, because I felt I was forced into physical affection in my family. Of course, we know this is not something to make parents feel defensive or anything like that.
Yeah, or guilty. Of
course, that's never the intention is not malicious for the most part. But we have to look in and really start raising our consciousness as a society, as a human family. We have to start looking at these things. Ma Karuna, you talked about you studied this, or you did a paper or something? What were you saying?
Well, I just did my own research.
Okay.
You know, I'm what you call kind of a buccaneer scholar.
Yeah.
I didn't do any formal research into it, but I do a lot of like my own independent research, especially on topics like this, because I feel like these are conversations that are really valuable, that we really need to have. And so I ended up reading this study that was talking about, creating the space of body autonomy, having that experience of autonomy with your own body. But because what we're doing with our children is we're basically creating a situation where they're feeling as if they have to engage in physical affection, and if they don't do so, then somehow they're wrong, or they're bad, or because we're creating that forceful environment at a very young age. We're basically conditioning them in such a way. And what's interesting is that even though we are coming from a space where it seems innocent, this is the same type of conditioning that happens in the sex slave industry. So even where infants under the age of 2 are conditioned to be able to engage in sexual contact at a very young age, or this physical affection, to the point where they feel like it's a game. You know, this is literally, it's the same type of conditioning. It starts from a place where it's seemingly innocent, and then we start to wear down those barriers where we have our own body autonomy, where we're willing to say no when somebody is entering into our space, even if it's just within 5 feet of us and saying, I don't want your energy near me, or just walking away. We're accepting of that person's behavior or experience, engaging in a conversation that we're uncomfortable with. Even if like the topic is something that you're uncomfortable with, even if there's a gap between you and there's no actual physical contact, because we're lowering our defenses or our the ability to say no, to speak up, exactly, to speak up and to really just say, I'm not comfortable with this, and being okay with not being comfortable with that, and then walking away or calling somebody, or you know, shouting, help, please, this person is trying to attack me. What happens is, because our defenses are so lowered, we have this feeling of like guilt, or like, oh, if I say something I'm wrong, or if I say something I'll be in danger, or if I say something bad will happen.
It's a total fear programming. I think we can really easily say it's not just a conditioning, it does become a full programming. Exactly. I think that's like
a software download.
The more accurate word, because it goes and it runs extremely deep. I would like to also specifically mention and speak, obviously, from my own experience. I'm in a female body, so is Ma Karuna. So I've known in my community of friends and relatives who are females, I don't think I know one person which has not felt this as an extreme place of pain. A huge pain point in their life is this topic. As women, I think this is actually a huge female pattern, a female root pattern, which our sex has been very much programmed to believe that we are required, if not required, if not very much urged to take part in both physical, emotional, mental entertainment and pleasure of others at the expense of ourselves,
at the expense of our authentic self,
at the expense of our self and self-worth. We are actually taught, like right from elementary school, besides as a child, how often what we started with, what you're programmed with. Take for example in elementary school, I remember how it was one of the most popular and like common topics for kids, even at the age of like 6, 7, 8 years old, that boys talking about girls putting them in the friend zone. This is not a joke. What does this imply? It means because a girl wants to be friends with a male body, a female body wants to be friends with a male body, that automatically that was seen as something she did wrong, like a hurt, an injury she was doing to the man.
It implies that there is a relationship beyond friendship, an intimate relationship that is owed, and that is owed. Yes, exactly. That you're owing a relationship that has intimacy in it, and that by putting somebody in a friendship zone, it's like you're taking away that owed intimacy. It's a really like
we're completely backwards.
It's totally
because
backwards.
It actually should be the exact opposite, right? The common ground should always be friendship with any individual that you meet, right? We should never have expectation of whatever relationship we're entering into with a stranger. The middle ground should be basic respect and love for another individual at a friendship level. So it's as for human beings, but nothing should ever be expected, especially in a romantic or sexual nature.
It's a social Stockholm syndrome that we're literally programming everybody into. We create a situation where in our own inner space, we feel like, okay, so like for example, if Prasiddha was a male body that I was feeling uncomfortable making advances on me at a party, and I was feeling like, oh my gosh, what do I do? The Stockholm syndrome is keep quiet, don't say anything, or even just like
let me just smile and sip my drink and like hope that that nothing else happens, like
right, exactly. Or you know, and like feeling as if you can't just walk away from the situation, or
just say, you know, I'm gonna leave right now, I'm not comfortable with this,
or smack that bastard in the face. So you know, that's the thing is, we create this programming in our inner space where you feel like even if you can see a route out, you can see, I can choose to walk away from this individual. He's making unwanted advances on me. I feel really uncomfortable in my own inner space right now. But because socially we're so well programmed from before our cognitions, our memories are even remembering. It's literally from infancy that we create this this lack of body autonomy, that I, in that situation, would naturally feel that I can't say no to this individual. Yeah. That I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should just chug this drink so that I feel, you know, less aware of myself, you know, and it creates a situation where like the social drinking or drug use becomes a way to bypass the discomfort that you're feeling in this social Stockholm syndrome that you've been programmed into since you were an infant.
Yes, I just want to like share one thing with you guys actually, because I've been, if any of you guys have been following me on my YouTube or personally, I've been on a spiritual path, of course my whole life, but especially the last 3 years. Last 3 or 4 years, I've been majorly seeking healing and health and abundance in my life, and I have found so much of that. But I would like to open up with you guys that my life is definitely far from perfect, and I definitely still encounter situations which sometimes I'm even shocked still manifest in my life. And one of them is in specific regards to this topic, so I want to share with you guys that this is not a joke. This topic is not a joke, and I hope that if you have not experienced anything like we're talking about, that you can have empathy and compassion and understanding for those that have experienced this continuously throughout their life. This is something which in intersectionality that you call microaggression. Microaggression means when something builds up time and time and time and time and time again, eventually there's a huge effect on that individual's consciousness, especially in regards to sexism, racism, any type of discrimination. This is what that term is usually in regards to. Subtle comments become not so subtle when you've heard them hundreds of times throughout your life. Subtle situations, subtle violations, subtle touches which are unwanted, subtle hugs or kisses, or even worse, much further, continuously keep happening to you. There's a huge degradation of your stability, of your inner space, of your consciousness, of your strength, and of your self-worth and respect that is happening, because people are continuously breaking you down in your outer surroundings, right? And I encountered a situation like this very recently, actually. I was in a situation, I won't go into the full details, I was in a situation where I felt completely trapped, whether I was or not. That was 100% my reality at that time, I'll say. Basically, I got into a situation which I felt I didn't have anyone that could help me if something worse happened, which is a horrible feeling on its own. I was alone in a situation with a male body, and I got extremely basically I was in a situation where I got into a very intense and very uncomfortable, if not further than that, situation, and I felt I had no power to do anything about it, or say anything about it, or if it had gone even further, I didn't know how I would have gotten out of it or gotten help. That feeling is the most like the epitome of powerlessness, and it's a terrible, terrible feeling to hold in your space, obviously, and for all of the emotional, physical, conscious side effects that it has on you, completely, this whole atmosphere, this whole culture that we're a part of, it has to be a fundamental change, because these situations are happening every single day all over the world to millions of people, especially female bodies, but I won't limit it to that. There's many people which experience sexual violence on a day-to-day basis, especially anyone who fits outside of the gender boundaries, like transgender people, transsexual, queer people, and female bodies are experiencing this constantly on a day-to-day basis, as well as people of color. So this is not this topic is not a joke, and it is our responsibility to start looking at the subtle way this culture has built, and just
it's that broad desensitization from the magazines that we read, from the billboards that are up on the, like, and you know, like even the fact that like a Coca-Cola bottle will have that design of the female naked body and the driplets on the marketing. It comes down to all of those subtle ways that we're desensitizing ourselves. So again, the microaggressions come from beyond just our interactions with others. It's literally in the marketing that surrounds us, so that the backdrop to all of these microaggressions that we're experiencing in our relationships is also just like a masking of these microaggressions and creating that ambiance that this is acceptable behavior. And so you get to that point where you've been so desensitized to saying no in places where you're uncomfortable. When there's a place that you become massively uncomfortable, you're so shocked.
Or in danger.
Or in danger, you become so shocked that you're frozen and you have no way to engage that fight or flight. It's literally freeze.
Yeah.
So we're teaching each other to freeze in those situations, because you're told when you're young, kiss your brother or kiss your father or kiss your mother, but don't fight and don't flee. You have to. You just freeze and let it happen.
It's your obligation. So
exactly.
Yeah, to get into the way we can combat this, right? As parents and as conscious adults, I think it is definitely our responsibility, whether it's for our children or other people's children, to give children autonomy when it comes to their body. Do not force your so-called love or affection on a child without their asking or wanting it. This is conscious parenting. Do not, even at an infant level, babies are aware and cognizant of who they want to be affectionate towards.
To pick them up, hold them. If a baby is swimming in your arms and crying out and reaching out for its mother, give it back to its mother, you know? Just to respect the body autonomy of that child. It's a living being. Just because it's an infant doesn't mean that it's not sensitive to energy. And just really respect and honor the fact that those imprints that are happening in those moments are so imperative to the rest of their life. It's literally every interaction that you have with these infants is so vital. To just really respect exactly how they're reacting to you, either shift your energy or respect their desires and their wishes.
Yes. So, and last statement, like if you whoever is watching this, right, whether you're a man or a woman or somewhere in between, just know that we were all programmed this way. We've all been raised in this society. So let us help heal one another and give each other autonomy. Bring that autonomy back to not only children but adults around you. We all have an inner child, each and every one of us, especially when it comes to physical relationships. It brings us back into that space of an inner child. We enter that space when we're interacting with others on a physical level. So let us be aware and gentle and compassionate and sensitive to people's desires and to people's safety and to people's intentions, okay?
And just to really quickly touch on something that you can use to solve this issue. I know for myself, the most empowering thing I could have done to experience that level of autonomy, to the point where I could literally take up brahmachari, was to study yoga, authentic yoga from the source. The completion processes that are part of that culture, the science of enlightenment, it literally equips you with the ability to come from a powerful space, have powerful cognitions, and to respond in ways that go beyond those root patterns to the programming that's literally implanted in you from such a base level, to the point where you can literally look back and view memories that were deleted from your memory until you come to that space of completion, to the point where you can actually accept them
and not feel pain or suffering anymore. And I want to actually make I'm going to make many more videos on this topic. I've been meaning to for a long time, so please stay tuned for that. I'm going to be diving much more into the topic of sexuality, of violation, and what it means to be in a female body in a lot of these senses. So I'm going to be diving into these topics further, so please stay tuned for that. But thank you guys all for listening to this video, and I hope that it helps you become more consciously aware of the subtle actions which we take on a day-to-day basis interacting with other human beings around us.
And just one quick thing also, if you're feeling like you're in a situation or in a relationship that you don't feel like you can get out of, you don't feel like you have that body autonomy, but you want to reach out but don't feel like you can publicly comment, then send a private message and we'll reach back out to you. We're here to help, whatever we can do. Both of us here are power manifestors, and we have the ability to use the third eye to find solutions that are a little bit outside of your purview, so or even a lot of it outside of your purview. So whatever you need, if you need help, reach out. It doesn't have to be a public cry for help in the comment section. Reach out in the private messages if you feel like you need that.
Yes, and I'll be tagging her also, so you'll be able to see her channel. So please definitely, we're here for you. That is basically the purpose of our existence. So thank you guys so much for listening again, and have a blissful day, and empower yourself to be more aware and conscious of your life. Thank you guys. Nithyananda.